There's a crisp feeling in the air. I have my coffee, I have my books. I think it is officially Gilmore Girls season. It is officially la 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 season, as some might say. So for this week, in order to get into that fall Gilmore Girls spirit, I'm going to be reading like Rory Gilmore. I am channeling my inner Gilmore Girls today. I was gonna say Rory, but I think I'm now in the Lorelai phase of my life. I have exited the Rory phase. I'm in my Lorelai phase. I am now working full time, so I feel like I'm a little bit more in the Lorelai era of my life. But we are still going to be reading like Rory Gilmore for a week. I have 3 books picked out. I only have 2 of the physical copies in my hand, but you can see this one is very chunky. So we're gonna see how much I can get to in 1 week. I did start this book while reading in bed last night. This is Dante's Divine Comedy. I always want to call it Inferno because that's like the first part. And they talk about Inferno a lot in the Da Vinci Code, that series, which made me want to pick up this book in the first place. And then I saw that it was on the reading challenge and I was like, this is perfect. So I started this last night. I didn't get very far at all. It was just like my before bed reading book. So I only got to page 14. There's so many different versions of this Rory Gilmore reading challenge out there. The one I have has 339 books to it. So I think it's a little bit more than most of the ones that I've seen online. But honestly, I only picked this one because it's got such a cute little PDF to it. I will try really hard to find this version online still, but I remember trying to find it last year and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I will try, and if I find it, I'll link it. But I counted last night and I've got around 45 of the books read. That's it. There's a couple of the books on here that I own but haven't read yet, so I'm sure those will be checked off soon-ish. But we're gonna try to put a dent in this challenge this week, starting with Dante's Divine Comedy, which, like I said, started last night and I have been wanting to read that for a while, so I'm pretty excited, which is shocking because most of these books are books that I either have never heard of or they're classics or I just like don't really want to read them. So I've been trying to pick books that I want to read because me and Miss Rory have very different reading tastes, but I kind of like that. It gives me the opportunity to try other things that I probably would not have tried otherwise. It's much later in the day now. I'm actually at the purgatory part of this. I don't know if I talked about this earlier, but the Divine Comedy is written in 3 sections. So you have Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradise. So I'm at the purgatory part right now. Haven't started it. It's literally just the very beginning. And honestly, I'm gonna keep going because I really want to finish this book for whatever reason. I really want to get through this one, but I am not loving it. And I always give myself grace when it comes to reading classics because I know classic literature and like texts that were written hundreds of years ago are always hard for me to read and always hard for me to get into and rate highly, but that has never stopped me from at least trying to read the book. And I did actually switch to the audiobook because I figured out there's multiple translation of this book and I actually wanted to listen to the audiobook while reading it, and the audiobook that I was listening to didn't match up with my book. It was like my book but translated so much better than the one I have. So if you want to read this book, I don't know how you pick one, but the audiobook version that I'm listening to is so much easier to understand. Just the way that it's written just makes so much more sense in my brain, and maybe that one is like translated but also translated into like modern day a little bit better, you know what I mean? Also, this one is a Harvard Classics edition, so like maybe Harvard is just too smart for me, but also isn't that so perfect for Miss Rory? I'm like early seasons Rory right now. Anyway, I'm gonna go shower and I think I'm gonna read a little bit more of this later depending on how much editing I can get done. Good morning. I'm actually just gonna sit and listen to the audio right now because I'm about to log on to work, so I'm hoping that during the workday I can finish the audiobook, but it kind of depends on how many meetings and things like that I have, or like if I really need to concentrate or I'm feeling overstimulated, then I turn off my audiobook. But I normally sit and work and listen to something. I like having some noise in the background unless, like I said, I need to really focus or I'm in a meeting, anything like that, then I turn it off. That is so not Rory of me, but whatever. I low-key am mourning the loss of my Rory Gilmore life, but it's okay. We will prevail. I'm just gonna go listen to my audiobook, and that was literally my only update. So hopefully I will finish this book today. It is the next morning. I did in fact finish the Divine Comedy last night, and I have a couple thoughts, and I've also realized I don't think I really even talked about what this book is about, because in my head I just assumed everyone would know, but that's probably just not the case because I feel like most people do not know. So basically it's a journey through 3 stages of the afterworld. So it starts with Inferno, which is hell, and then you go into Purgatory, and then you go into Paradise. And I found this very interesting, but also very scary. And I don't think that that was the intention at all. And I don't think that's what you're supposed to come out of this book with. But like when I'll be... Excuse me. Okay, you can just sit there, that's fine. But when I was reading These Circles of Hell, that was the somewhat scary part. Like, not really scary at all, but just a little bit unsettling. Because obviously this is all a hypothesis of the afterworld and like what that could be, but still to like think of this as being an option for what the afterworld could be, it's a little bit like, I don't know, like now I'm like, hell is so scary. I don't know, I feel like I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but it was very beautiful, very interesting, and it was so symbolic. Like literally, I swear you could just sit and pick through everything that is said in this book and you could do it for hours and hours and hours. Now, I'm not gonna do that because I don't feel like I am the best person to do that, but the symbolism in here was crazy. Like I kind of wish that I had a teacher or someone to just like sit down and be like, let's dive into this book. But like I said, I'm not gonna do that. But also it is very hard to rate this book because I have absolutely no idea what I would rate it. I kind of don't want to rate it because also I feel like if you want to read this book you would. Like my opinion probably has nothing to do with this book specifically because it is like a work of fiction, but it's also a classic. It's kind of weird because it didn't feel like fiction to me for some reason. Like it felt, I don't know, it just did not feel like fiction at all, which is also part of why I'm like, I don't know how to rate this. Anyways, let's move on from this book and move on to my next book because I did start a different book while laying in bed last night, like before I went to sleep. I actually started the collected stories of Eudora Welty. I don't really know how to say her name, but I started that last night. I think I got like 2.5 stories into it because it's all short stories, which is so interesting because I've never read a book of short stories before. But honestly, I only picked this one because it was available on Libby, and so many of the books on this reading challenge are not available on Libby. So I'm gonna have to figure that out later, but this one was available on Libby, and I have a couple copies, obviously, of books that are on this reading challenge. So I'm gonna do what I can. But like I said, I got about 3 stories into this book last night, so it's kind of hard to tell my feelings because I'm not very far into it. I'm literally only 6% into it, and I'm also kind of intrigued on how I'm going to end up rating this book and like explaining my feelings because like I said, it's a bunch of short stories, and so far I liked the second short story better than the first one, and I've been reading the third short story and I've now put it down twice, and I keep being like, what did I just read? Trying to think about what I read in the third short story. I actually cannot remember what I read. Like, what was that one about? I can't remember. Not a good sign at all. I should be able to remember. Maybe it was just because I was really tired, but not a good sign. Obviously, I'm gonna keep reading these short stories and I will update you as I go. It is super rainy this morning, so I'm very excited to just curl up with a cup of coffee and a book. I feel like that is what Rory would do on a rainy day when she's not studying. Gosh, this is making me miss studying, which is weird. I have not missed school at all since graduating, but here I am. I have officially DNF'd the collected stories. I just can't get into it at all, and every time I read one of the stories, I feel like I'm ending the story more confused than I was in the beginning. I feel like I'm not really reading. Like, it just feels like a really weird experience, and I can't connect to the writing at all, so I decided to DNF it. I only got 10% of the way through it, but I just really couldn't see myself enjoying the book. I just don't think it's for me. I don't think it's bad. It's just definitely not for me. But I did actually find another book that I really want to read. This is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, and this one stuck out to me because I actually posted a reel / YouTube short a while ago saying if there was one book that you could make me read, what would it be? And someone commented this book. At least I'm pretty sure it was that video that it was commented on. But either way, this book was recommended to me in a comment, and it's also on this reading challenge, and it's available on Libby right now. So it feels like it was just meant to be. It's also pretty short. I don't know why. I just feel like I need something like short and quick and easy right now. I think maybe because I read a fantasy before I read Dante's Divine Comedy, and the Divine Comedy is obviously just more of like a heavier read. It's not something super lighthearted that you can just like enjoy, I feel like, because like I said, there's so much symbolism in there. But I'm very excited for this one. I have no idea what it's going to be about at all, but I just saw something that's really interesting. It says the best-selling novel now on Broadway, so that's interesting. Maybe I could go see this as a little Broadway show. I mean, it's probably not still on Broadway like right this second, because don't they rotate them, right? Like, Broadway shows aren't always playing. Anyways, that is enough rambling. I'm gonna go start this book because like I said, I'm really excited to read it. only 18% of the way through this book right now, but I'm actually really liking it. And I went into this book fully blind, so I had no idea what to expect. But basically, if I was going to give you a one-sentence synopsis about what this book is about, it is about a 15-year-old boy who finds a murdered dog and writes a story about him trying to solve who murdered this dog. And it is so interesting right now. Our main character is so fleshed out. He feels so real. Like, I'm reading this book and I keep thinking that this actually happened and that this main character actually experienced all these things, and it's hard for me to not feel that way, but it is so good, and every time I sit down to read it, I just don't want to stop. And I've convinced myself that I can finish this book today when I don't really think I can do that because it is 8 o'clock at night, and like I said, I'm only 18% of the way through. Oh, another thing that is so interesting, the chapters are only written in primary numbers. So I'm on chapter like 70 something right now, which sounds crazy because I'm only 18% of the way through, but they're short chapters, and like I said, they're only written in prime numbers. Did I say primary? They're written in prime numbers, not primary. I actually meant to give this update before I got ready for bed, but I feel like I don't even look that crazy right now. But I do in fact have my heatless curls in already because I am going to bed. I feel like I barely talked about this book when I gave my first update, but I'm now at the 57% mark, so I feel like I can talk about it more. But basically it is following this young boy. He's 15 and I believe he has autism, and the way that it is written is so encapsulating. Like, wait, is that the right word? Engulfing maybe is the right word that I'm looking for. I'm just like so drawn into it as soon as I start reading it. It just feels very realistic. Like, it feels 100% like this character. His name's Christopher, I think. It feels like he is real. He literally feels real. And that is one of the main things I ask for in my books. I just really need strong characters in books, or odds are I'm not gonna like it. And this character, so strong. And you really mostly focus on him. There's obviously like other characters in it. Like, he talks about his mom, he talks about his dad, and like his teacher, and all of his neighbors. There's obviously other people in it, but he is like the sole focus. Like, everyone else is kind of like side characters, you know what I mean? It is very good, but I will say I found the beginning of this book a little bit more interesting than this middle half that I'm on right now. But with that being said, I am still enjoying it. I just liked the beginning a little bit better. I also guessed something that was revealed to us in the middle, which we definitely were not supposed to be able to guess that, so that was a little bit disappointing, but I'll get over it as long as the second half feels like the first half did. But I'm gonna lay down and keep reading. I'm shocked at how much I read today, but like I said, it's so easy to read because it's just so, like, if you pick it up and you're into it. It's the next day. I didn't realize I was about to finish this book, but I wanted to give a quick update before I finish it because I'm 96% of the way through. I only have a couple pages left. This book obviously reads very fast, but also at the same time, it is a shorter book, so I feel like I'm flying through it, but like I said, it's just a shorter book. And I will say, past couple of chapters, reading it has almost felt like I'm almost reading it to finish it, not reading it because I want to read it, which is kind of odd because there's nothing wrong with the book, but I'm just like not really connecting with it anymore. And like the last half of the book, the plot has changed so much. But also, like, I don't know if there really is technically a plot because like you're really just following the main character, but things have just changed so much in the last half of the book. They've gotten a bit more intense, which I think is what's making me not love it as much. Like, I kind of liked that it was a bit more laid back in the first half of the book, so I'm not really sure how to feel or how I'm gonna rate this, but I have a couple pages left, so I'm gonna finish it and hopefully my thoughts will be a little bit more put together tomorrow morning. Another day, another update from my bedroom. I obviously finished the incident, the curious dog of the incident of the night. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. That is such a long title. Anyways, I obviously finished that book last night. I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5 star because I really enjoyed the writing, but there was just something about the last half of the book that almost made it feel like a chore to finish it. I don't really know why, but it was very good and I still do recommend it. And then I actually did start a little bit of my next book, which I kind of talked about this earlier. This is Edgar Allan Poe's Complete Tales and Poems. I don't think I'm gonna finish this entire book in this video because it's so thick, and I read a couple pages of the first story in this book. The first short story in here is called The Unparalleled Adventures of one Hans Pfeiffer. Listen, I never said I was good at pronouncing things. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyways, I only got a couple pages into it. I'm on page 6 right now, and I'm honestly really not enjoying myself. So I'm debating on if I'm gonna keep reading this book or not. I really just don't want to DNF 2 books in one video. That just seems a lot for me because I don't normally DNF books at all. So I'm thinking I might read this short story and then maybe one more tomorrow and then call it quits, because then it'll be a whole week of reading like Rory. Hopefully I will get through this first short story and then I will update you on my thoughts and feelings and all of that fun stuff. But yeah, so far I'm just not obsessed with it. It just very much is reading like a classic and almost feels kind of random to me because like right now, like why is our main character so focused on making a hot air balloon? And that's like his life's goal right now. I don't know. It just seems kind of odd to me. Hi everyone, it's the next morning. Let's chat. I am actually going to soft DNF this book. It's definitely a very soft DNF because I'm definitely going to come back to this book eventually. I'm just not in the mood for it right now, and I'm really not enjoying the first short story because of that, and I don't want to end up not liking this book just because I'm not in the mood for it. So I'm gonna soft DNF this. I was a little bit disappointed though because I've read The Telltale Heart and The Raven before and I liked both of them, so I definitely want to go back and reread those 2 short stories, and I might read a couple of the other short stories, but like I said, I'm just not in the mood for it right now, and I really wanted to read all of them, but the first short story is already like really getting to me because I'm not interested in it. I'm almost kind of bored, so I'm going to DNF that for now. But let's talk about all the other books I read in this video, starting with The Divine Comedy. Like I said, I don't think I'm gonna rate this book. There's just so much that you can dig into this book, and I did really enjoy it, and I would recommend it if you are someone that likes classics and likes digging into their reading. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but there's just so much in this book that you could dive into, and I feel like I would have loved doing that in a class setting, but obviously I'm not in class anymore, so I cannot do that, but it still was really good. I just don't think that it's going to be for everyone. My camera died, but I'm back. And then I read 3 of the short stories in the collected stories of Eudora Welty before I ended up DNFing that one as well. That one's definitely a hard DNF for me. I just couldn't connect to any of the short stories or any of the characters or anything that was going on, to be honest. And I'm not sure that I'm really a short stories kind of person. So I did DNF that one, unfortunately. But that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know what else you want to see from me. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!